Okay, let's go back to talking about functions and writing more functions. Once we have the area of a room that needs to be carpeted, our contractor would like to quote a price. But this price depends on the color of the carpet that the customer chooses. Let's add a new comment, and in here we'll say default values. Let's write a new function named carpet cost. Since the cost of the carpet depends on the area needed to be covered, we need to pass in the area value we calculated earlier using the area function. To do this, let's add a parameter. So we'll say carpet cost having area of type int. Now, of course, this is an external name that we want to display when we call the function, but we want something more sensible inside the function. So we'll say area. Since we're going to use this function to calculate the cost, the return type of the function needs to be a double value for the price. Now, as I mentioned before, let's imagine that the cost of the carpet varies depending on the color. For sake of simplicity, let's say in our example that we have three colors, gray, tan, and deep blue, and we'll specify the prices as simple integer values. In reality, prices aren't whole numbers, but we'll ignore that for now. Let's add a few comments inside our function. So each carpet has a cost per square foot. So we'll say gray carpet is $1 per square foot. Tan carpet is $2 per square feet. And the deep blue carpet is 4. Or something like that. Doesn't matter. Now, depending on the color selected, we'll multiply the area by the cost per unit. Now, obviously, we need to be able to select a color and therefore provide a color to this function. So let's add a new parameter. After area, we'll add a comma to add another parameter, and we'll say carpet color. And again, we want this to be our external name. So for the local name, we'll simply use color. And this is going to be of type string. Inside the body of the function, we can use a switch statement to switch on the carpet color argument and multiply it by the price per unit that we've specified depending on which carpet it is. So let's start writing some code. We'll say switch color. For the sake of simplicity again, we're passing in the color as a string for now, and we'll assume that we're always going to be passing it in as a lowercase string. Now, in real code, because this is a string and it can be written as an uppercase string, we would need to check for both. In fact, there are better ways of doing this, but we'll get there one day. So for the first case, the color gray, we'll start with the case keyword, and then the pattern we want to match against, that is, if color is gray, then we need to calculate the price, which is the area, times the price per unit. Now, up at the top, we'll create a variable called price of type int and set an initial value of 0. So here we'll say var price equals 0. Then for the first case, we'll say price equal area times 1, because it is $1 per square foot. This is obviously oversimplifying things because prices are rarely whole numbers, but it keeps the focus on functions. Now, you've never seen this before, actually. This is an issue. So it's the triangle with the yellow background and an exclamation point. So in contrast to an error, an issue is something that you should be aware of, but you don't need to fix it for the code to run, right? So it's not an error because it doesn't stop us from running our code. Now, this issue says that the variable price was written to, but never read. That's okay, we're going to return it and do more stuff with it. Let's add two more cases. So the first one is in case the value is 10, or the second one. Then the price is area times 2. And then finally, if it's deep blue, which we'll just specify as blue, then the price is area times 4. Now remember that switch statements have to have a default value, so that if we don't match any of these colors, we have to have a safe fallback that we can return. In this case, we'll just return 0 as the price, since the color isn't something we stock and won't be charging the customer. So in the default case, we'll say price equals 0. And then, now that we have a price, we can return it. So at the bottom, we'll say return price. Now here we have an issue. We've specified the return type of the function as double, but it's actually an integer value. So rather than going through the problem or the trouble of converting this integer to a double, let's just go ahead and return an integer for now. Okay, we have a function. Let's actually use that function with the area that we've calculated earlier. So up over here at the top, you'll see we have area of first room and area of second room. So let's give this a try. So now we can say carpet cost having area, and we'll say area of second room. And for the color, we'll say blue. Pretty neat, huh? So it costs that much money to get this carpet laid. Now, what if we only wanted to interact with carpet cost directly? And by that I mean, what if we don't want to first calculate the area and then pass that value to a second function? No problem. We can easily get this done because we can call one function from inside another function. So let's go back to the definition of carpet cost. And instead of the area parameter, let's change that to accept a length and a width argument of type int. So we'll have to change quite a bit up here. So first we'll have to say length int and width int. And now it doesn't read nicely anymore, so let's move that having bit outside to the base name. So carpet cost having length, width, and a color. Okay. Now, inside the function, we'll calculate the area using the area function that we wrote earlier. So we'll say let area equal area. We'll use that function, and we'll just simply pass the length and pass the width through. So here we have some value assigned to this constant, so we're just going to use that constant as an argument to another function. Now, this is an error because we have the same name for both the function name and the variable name, so we'll simply say area of room. To fix these up, we'll just change the names here as well. Okay, what's going on here? It's quite simple, actually. We're not doing anything new, but rather than calling the calculate area function with hard-coded values outside of this function as we had earlier, we're passing in the arguments for the parameters to the carpet cost having function through to the area function. So now, if I get rid of this, when we call the carpet cost calculate function, the values that we provide for length and width here are then given to the area function inside and used to calculate the area. Once we have a value, we assign it to that area constant, area of room, and proceed just like before. So now we can call it with this modified function and provide, let's say, a length of 10, a width of 20, and for the carpet color, we'll say tan. So far, so good. Everything works. Now, in this hypothetical scenario, it's very rare that our contractor is asked to install a carpet color other than tan. Turns out everybody just wants a tan carpet. So having to input the value tan over here 9 times out of 10 is kind of cumbersome. We can solve that problem though, because function parameters can actually take default values. Going back to the function declaration up at the top over here, we're going to do a new thing. So after we specify the parameter for carpet color, after the end where we say this is of type string, we're going to actually assign a value to this constant. So we're going to add an equal sign, and we'll give it a default value of tan. So now this parameter, unless we specify, always defaults to tan. So how does this change things? So let's get rid of this function call, or take a look at it real quick. So carpet cost having length, width, carpet color, right? Now let's get rid of the function call and call it again. So when we start typing out the function, carpet cost having, Xcode's autocomplete presents us with a few results. Now before we just had one result, now we have 2 results, and you'll notice an interesting thing. The first result is the one that we expected just like before, where we have an argument specification for length, width, and the color. But in the second one, carpet color is omitted. If we select this one, we're basically telling Swift that we want to accept that default value for carpet color. Now, if we use the first one, we're saying that we want to specify the carpet color directly and not use the default. So let's try this. Let's specify a length and width of 20. And you'll see the value is just like before because we're defaulting to using tan as the argument for carpet color. So there you have it. Now you not only know how to write Swift functions, but to call one function from inside another and to give the function parameters default values. In the next video, let's take a look at how we can return more than one value from a function.